Hi YouTube, welcome back to Wtf Rc Car. So we've got a video today for the PL18EV, and this is one that's been requested, how to set up rear wheel steer. So I don't have the exact details of the RC that the guy wants, so I've done two different versions on this. One you incorporate a pump, the other you don't, because some of the RCs you use hydraulics for steering. But either way, you can set it up same, you just leave the pump bit out if you're just using servos directly. So let's bring in for a close-up look and see how we got this set up. So to set this up, we're going to have the FGR12B receiver. So we've got 12 channels. Channel 1, I'm going to run to the ESC, so that'll be as throttle for his motor. Channel 2, we're going to have as our steering servo, so this will be as normal front steering. And then channel 4 we're going to have represented by this, and this is going to represent the hydraulic pump in case you need a pump to power your steering, as well as servo outputs to open the pump gates. And then in channel 5 we're going to have this servo to represent the rear wheel steer. So let's power this up and put it in bind mode. So you should have a flashing light on your receiver. Then on the transmitter, we're going to go into his RX menu, RX bind, 18 channel, routine and bind.
Binding. Bind successful.
So that should have us all connected up. And then if we look what happens, so we've got as normal steering. So move wires that way. And you can see the pump goes the same way. So as you add steering, the mix brings the pump in, and that's just as normal steering. Then on this we've got the rear steer, and same again, the pump will come in if you need hydraulics for your steering. Then on this switch, if we switch it to the mid position, we get a steering going opposite ways. So your front wheels will turn one way, your back wheels will turn other, and then if you flick it again, we've got front and back steering both ways. At any point on this, you can override the position by using this dial. So even when you're mixing, you can override and tweak it. Or we can switch it all the way down, and that just goes to his normal standard steering. So if we flick onto this screen so you can see what's happening. So that's a standard steering. You can see as pump is set to only mix in one direction. It's basically how mine works on excavator. So as pump will only turn one direction no matter which one you're pressing. We've got as throttle. We have brake and reverse because it's on a Traxxas ESC, but that's just working as a standard throttle. If we turn as rear steer, you can see as pump comes online with it as well. So that's working. Then if we flick this switch, you can see we've got the pump mix, and we've also got the channel mix. And if you're just using servos, you don't need to mess around with pump at all, so you don't have to set channel 4 up as a mix for that. The channels we're using for all this are optional, whatever suits you. So if you want your rear steer to be on channel 3, you can put it on channel 3. If you want it on channel 11, you can put it on channel 11, as long as you set the mix so that channel is mixing from the steering. And then if we flick the switch up, we can see this is just a straight mix off at steering. But let's bring you in and show you how we've achieved this. So there's a few things to remember on it. It's all done through ProMix. So if we look in here, a switch to turn it on is switch E, and you can see what it's doing as I switch it. It's flicking through the mixers. And then the away position is just both off. So if we go into first mix, you can see we've got as input as steering as master. You can tell it to copy the trim over or not. With steering, I probably wouldn't, because it's handy to trim separate to make sure it goes straight when it should. As slave is the channel that we're going to be running this slave servo off for the rear steer. And then one important thing to remember is how you set up the actual mix. So on this, we've just got the offset as standard. So if we enable this mix, you can see it just follows it. Now hopefully this will make sense. The amount of points and type, I would leave it on 11 because it gives you a lot more to play with curve to like fine tune your steering. So if we come down to the next mix, on this one again we've got steering, we've got a slave as his rear channel for his rear steering. But if we go into our offset, on this one, all I've done is moved all the offset points to completely the opposite side. So if we flick back to the first one and look, so if we go in here, you see as diagonal is that way from bottom left to top right. All you need to do to reverse the function of the channel, which is basically what we want on the opposite mix, you just press left and right on these and you move them using up and down. So if we go to the first one, originally when you turn it on, this will be up there on 20. So the original mix is that way, and all we're doing is highlighting it and then bringing it down to -20. And you just do that for the whole of the line, and then all it does, it basically just reverses the channel. If you see, the servo turns completely opposite. Must admit, it's a lot easier on the ground transmitters where it just says mix mode and you can just go reverse. Why it has to be so difficult on these flight based transmitters, I'm not sure. But that's basically all we've done for these two to give us the four-wheel steering. Then I've set channel 5 up to just be on VRG, which is this top one. But I've also set a mix to the pump. And then if we look what we've done on this, all I've done is made sure both directions will make it run the correct way. So rather than completely reverse it, that's just so whenever we mix in, because the pumps always have one way they want to run. So if you see, the mix from this always makes the pump run the right way. Likewise with steering, if we come back in and we go to his ProMix, if we look at steering mix to pump, I've just done exactly the same on that. So no matter which way we're steering, it's always going to make the pump mix channel run the same direction. And that, again, you don't have to have it on 11 points, it just gives you more to fine tune. But all you're doing, the original line will be down here and you're just inverting it. So it runs on the positive and it always turns the same way. Not sure if there's any other ways to do that, but this just seemed the easiest way to do it to get what we wanted. So basically, we've got our steering assigned to just to his rear servo, and we've got that mixed to the pump. Then we've got his actual steering mixed to the pump as well. We've got our channel that we're using off this switch, and this has just got the standard curve. We're not reversing anything on it. And then we make another identical one, use the same switch but in a different position. And then on this one, we're completely inverting the actual line. So we're moving everything completely to the opposite side. And then that gives us the reverse action. So it gives us the choice of just normal steer, steering both opposite direction, steering both in the same direction, or all the way up, and we've just got normal steering and separate rear wheel steer. Seems the best way of doing this. You do not have to use this as the rear steer. You could assign it to this if you wanted to, or any other dial on here. It really doesn't matter. If we look at as function assigns, so we've got throttle set to J3, steering set to J1, and then pump we've got on none. We've got VRG set for auxiliary 5, which is as rear steer. And then you've got all the other options that you can basically assign to whatever function you need. The only thing I've changed on the trims is obviously to move steering to this one. And then on throttle, I've moved this one, just so it makes a little bit more sense. The trim for this one, I've got set to this. So yeah, the trim for this servo, you can set to one of these if you want. It really doesn't matter. But yeah, hopefully that gives you some idea of how to get rear wheel steer with modes that are just at the flick of a switch. So if you need to mix in another channel for your pump, going in through the ProMixers, that should give you some idea on how we've done it. Right, so that is all the basic setup covered. We've got the mix for running an hydraulic pump. We've got the mix for running your steering with the normal offset. Then we've got the mix for running a steering with a reverse offset. So we can run the opposite one in reverse. Gives us a nice few options for his rear steer. You've also got the assignment for your normal channel. So all we've done for this, if we come into function assign, so we've got nothing set to control the pump, that's all off mixers. Then we've got VRG set for channel 5 and then mixed to the pump again. So it gives you plenty of options. You do not have to use the pump part of it if you've only got servos and you've not got hydraulics what do your steering. If you do have hydraulics that run your steering, you've got this option to add in. You can also reverse this if you want it only going the other way. Just move the V so it's pointing down and it'll only work in reverse. Depends what your pump needs for the input. But yeah, hopefully that gives you enough information to set up whatever rear wheel steering setup you want to do. As I say, you don't have to use this for your rear steer. You could use this, or you could use that one, or you could set it to that side if you want. It really just depends how comfortable you are using these transmitters. For me, I think I'd basically have this suspended around my neck if I were going to use it this way. They're not the sort of transmitter you use with your thumb. You do sort of use them like this, and it does feel like it'd work quite well. This does give you option of rear steer on its own or steering with the mixers. But yeah, let's wrap this one up. So there we have it, the PL18EV, and just my quick take on how to set up rear wheel steer for a ground vehicle. As I say, you don't have to use this, you can use that, you could use that movement, you could use any of these, you could even use some of these if you wanted to. I just find that seems to work really well with steering. But the only thing that I would say with switches, you have got other switches, but as standard, these are like self-centering, self-return switches, and that one on mine is set up nice 3 positions. So on down position you'd have just normal steer, then you'd have one of the mixers and then the other mix to invert it, or vice versa. And it does seem to work quite well, and it's quite easy to get to. As I said, this is not really a transmitter that is designed to be used like that. You're more meant to be like this. But yeah, if If you've got any other requests of information or setups that you'd like to see on the PL18EV, let me know in comments below. But thanks again for watching WTF Rc Cars. Hopefully you find this useful, entertaining, or a bit of both. Don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell, share to friends and family, and catch you guys again in the next one.